As we discussed earlier, it can be difficult to match clips from different cameras when they're on the same timeline. We have discussed techniques for matching the clips, for example using the Color Space Transform OFX plugin, but there's an easier and more accurate way to do that, and that's by using the Cinematch OFX plugin. Let's give that plugin a try. I have a new project here called Cinematch, and this has two clips. And these were shot with different cameras at the same location at the same time of day. There's a Panasonic clip and a Sony clip. And here the goal will be to match the Panasonic clip to the Sony clip. Let's check our project settings. And here the color science is set to DaVinci or RGB, so it's not color managed. And the timeline color space is set to the familiar Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4. If you recall, you can apply LUTs to the clips in the Media tab. But here, no LUTs are applied. And hence the log footage looks washed out. Let's go to the Color tab. Here's the Panasonic clip and the Sony clip. If you're not sure which is which, you can always jump back to the timeline. The Panasonic clip is first, and the Sony clip is second. If you place your time slider over a different clip, that's a clip that will be selected in your Color tab. So once again, here's the Panasonic clip. Now before we try to match these two clips, it'd be good to apply a LUT to at least get them into the Rec. 709 color space. Because we want to wind up in Sony camera color space, we'll apply a Sony LUT to both clips. I'll start with the Panasonic clip. With that selected, I'll right mouse button click on the node, go to LUT, and go straight down to Sony, and select the LUT that's most appropriate for the Sony clip. And here it's the second option, S-Log3S Gamma 3 Cine to LC 709. And that looks better. Now there will be matching issues, so let's grab a still of this that we can compare to the Sony clip. I'll switch to my gallery, right click over the view, and grab still. So here's a still of the Panasonic clip with the Sony LUT. We need to apply the same LUT to the Sony clip, and there's a shortcut for that. I can select the Sony clip, then right click on the still, and apply grade. Now I'll apply the same LUT to the Sony clip. That looks better also, but you can see that it's much brighter. So our exposure does not match. A good way to compare clips is to use the image wipe option. With the Sony clip selected, I can go to the still, right click, and play still. Once you see the image wipe split, you can click drag that division line. So here are Sony clips on the left and Panasonic clips on the right. I can tell the Panasonic clip or still is on the right because if I scrub the timeline, the right side doesn't move. So another step we should take before trying to better match these two clips is at least adjust the exposure. We need to reduce the exposure of the Sony clip to match the Panasonic clip. A good way to do that is to display our scopes and then use the offset controls down here. So why use those controls in particular? Well, the offset controls are calibrated to work on a narrow range of log-encoded images. And the results of the corrections are designed to be viewed through a curve of a LUT, like we've applied already. In this way, the image will expand and compress based on the shape of the curve, and we'll get a better match. So let's go ahead and turn on our scopes. Click the second button here, and then break them off. I'll go into the use of the scopes in more detail in later videos. For now though, I'll mention that there are different display modes for the scopes. At the moment, this one's set to Parade, where you see the R, G, and B. You can choose different styles though, for example waveform. I tend to use waveform quite a bit, and you'll see that in later videos. For now though, I'll stick with Parade. Now if you are using the image wipe also applies to the scopes. And if you look close, you can see a sudden change right here in the center of each channel. So let's try to reduce the exposure of the Sony clip to better match. I'll go ahead and create a new serial node, but place it in front, Shift S. If I was to press Alt S, it'd appear afterwards. So with the first node selected, I'll click drag the dial here to the left. The exposure is reduced, and it becomes difficult to see where that split is in the scopes. Now there are still issues with matching. Even though our exposure is much better, there's a color variation between the two clips, and that's especially noticeable in the sky. So now we need to apply some type of color space transform to move the Panasonic clip into the Sony space. Now here we can once again use the Color Space Transform OFX plugin and see how it compares to the Cinematch plugin. For now, I'll turn off the wipe. You can do that by right mouse button clicking in the view and toggle off Show Reference Wipe. I'll zoom out a bit. Return to the Panasonic clip and add a new serial node in the front. Shift S. I'll search for the Color Space Transform. Here it is. I'll drag it onto the first node. Now I need to set my input and output color space. The input color space and gamma should match the Panasonic camera. So I'll set the color space to Panasonic V gamut and input gamma to Panasonic V log. For output, I'll match it to the Sony camera. So here, color space should be Sony S gamut 3 Cine. And output gamma should be Sony S log 3. Now let's see how that compares to the Sony clip. I'll delete my old still here. With it selected, press delete, and then make a new still with our new color space transform. Grab still. I'll return to my Sony clip and play this new still. So it's okay, but there's still a color difference in the sky. So why is there not a better match? Well, the reason is the Color Space Transform OFX plugin matches the color science from the camera manufacturer, but not the light sensing characteristics of the camera sensors. If the sensors are similar, you might get a pretty good result. But if the sensors perform differently, which they often do, just applying the color science won't give you an accurate match. So here's where Cinematch will give us a better result. I'll disable the wipe once again. Turn off my color space transform, so I'll return to the Panasonic clip. Turn it off. Create a new serial node in front. And apply the Cinematch plugin. Here it is. If you want to download Cinematch, you can find it at cinematch.com. Simply follow the installation instructions, and it will appear in your OFX library. I'll go ahead and apply that to the first node. There's an overlay on the view. We can expand that, and you can see it's a set of color controls in the form of curves and wheels. We won't be using these controls for this demonstration. In any case, the first step for using this plugin is to choose your camera source profile. And here we need to match it to the Panasonic camera. I'll click this button, go to the top menu, and choose the camera manufacturer, Panasonic. Then for the second menu, choose the camera, GH5, the camera color space, with the third menu, V log L. I don't need to change this last menu. The menus are added though because some manufacturers of cameras and monitors have added the option to change the range when capturing. And here again, the ranges can be left set to the default. I'll click Apply. And the second step is to choose the camera target profile, which needs to match the Sony camera. Click that button. For Sony, the camera is A7 III. The space is S log 3, S gamut 3, Cine. And once again, we can leave this last menu to the default, which is full. Now let's compare this to the Sony clip. I'll remove this old still, delete that. Select a good frame, and grab another still. I'll return to the Sony clip, and place new still. And here the match is better. One thing I might want to check is the exposure. Make sure the first node's selected, and adjust the exposure. And here with a slight adjustment of the exposure, I get an even better match, but it's extremely close. Now there's another way to adjust exposure by using just the Cinematch plugin. I'll go ahead and disable this node here with the offset adjustment, Control D, then add a new serial node in front. I'll add a new iteration of Cinematch to this, and even though we're not creating a color space transform, we do need to set the camera source profile. And this should be the Sony camera. Then if you scroll down deeper, you'll see some exposure controls towards the bottom. And here I'll lower the exposure slider and produce similar results to using the offset wheel. Once again, there's a slight variation in color between the two clips. You could use the temp slider and tint slider to make those color adjustments. That is an option. In fact, if I was to adjust the temp slider, I can get a very good match. But that's simply an option. Obviously, you're free to add separate grading with the resolve controls. But here we've gotten much closer to a matching result than we would have just using the color space transform. A third way to use the Cinematch plugin is to apply it to the entire timeline. This might be useful if you want to move the entire timeline with all the clips into a new camera space. Let's give that a try. The first thing you'll need to do is disable the old LUTs for both clips. I'll start with the Sony clip, go to the third node, press Ctrl D, and the Panasonic clip. Disable that third node also. Now I'll switch to the timeline mode up here through this menu. And here we have a single node. Apply Cinematch to that. Set the camera source profile to Sony. Camera target profile to the new camera space we want to go to. For example, let's say we wanted to move into Area Alexa space. Area Alexa log C. Now the entire timeline in both clips have been moved into that new camera color space. I'm free to add additional node and apply a Area LUT. Alt S, right mouse button click, and here I'll choose the Area Alexa log C to Rec 709 to return us to Rec 709. So there's three ways you can use Cinematch. So even if you are using clips from different cameras, by using these techniques you can get quicker and better results. Next up we'll discuss RCM wide gamut.